Alright, today we're going to talk about cornbread dressing. It don't matter if you call it stuffing or dressing. If you've got a turkey in the oven, you're going to need this around the holidays. So stick around. Alright, we're going to start this off by making our cornbread. We're going to be using two types of cornbread, a sweet cornbread and a yellow cornbread. If you don't know how to make sweet cornbread, you can use 2 boxes of Jiffy mix, works perfect. And we'll mix our sweet cornbread up first. Now cornbread doesn't have to be mixed up like cake batter. You just kind of stir it around, getting everything wet, everything mixed, and you're going to let it crown so it can be lumpy. You just kind of mix it around and get it wet. We're going to set this aside for a few minutes and let it crown. Now we're going to take a pan, a 9-inch baking pan, and we're going to pour our sweet cornbread mix in there. And with any cornbread and the dressing, when the time comes, you'll want to really spray with a non-stick spray really good to keep it from sticking or burning at the bottom. Now we're just going to level it out, and it's ready to go into the oven. We're going to cook this for about 30 minutes on 400. But we're going to make our other cornbread first. Now we're going to make our yellow cornbread mix. If you're not comfortable making cornbread, they sell the little packs. They're about 6 ounces each of yellow cornbread mix. Use 2 of those packs and you'll be fine. If you're going to make it from scratch, just make it with a 9-inch pan. And with that said, we'll go ahead and start mixing this up. And again, with cornbread, it's important to let it crown. You don't want to mix it like it's a cake. We're going to let that crown for a few minutes. Again, don't forget to spray your pan really good with non-stick or your cornbread will burn on the bottom. So now that it's been set and it's kind of lumpy, we're going to pour it in the pan here. And both of our cornbreads are ready and going into the oven. Okay, now that we've got our cornbread made, our chicken boiled, our eggs boiled, it's time to start putting this thing together. Alright, it's time to chop up our boiled eggs. I'm going to chop them into nice little chunks. Not too small, not too big. Just like that. And there we have our eggs. Now, as usual, you don't have to worry about writing down the ingredients or how much. All of that's at the end of the video. Very easy to get a hold of, so you don't have to pay attention to that. Alright, now we're going to do our little green onions. We'll chop them up in little 1/4 inch pieces. we have our green onions. And our celery. Now we're going to get our bell pepper this time. What we want to do is we want to cut this little center out like so. Then we want to cut it in half, and then cut it in half again, so we have 4 pieces. And we're going to be removing all of this in some water. That way we have all the seeds out, all of that white stuff, the meat. And now we can cut it into cubes. First cut them into strips. I'd say the strips are about a ½ inch wide, and now we're going to cube them. Our bell peppers are now ready. And our onions. And now that we have all of our vegetables chopped up, we're going to saute them in butter. And we're going to do each one separate because they take different times to cook. The shallots, the green onions, they'll cook a lot faster than the celery. So we'll do them individually. And the reason you want to saute them, if you don't, the celery will not cook while it's mixed in with the cornbread dressing, and you'll end up just having hard little crunchies, and it won't taste good at all. The secret to sauteing is a low heat, and take your time. We're still letting them simmer, and the trick, like I said, is a low heat. And now that our celery is ready, we'll put them back in the bowl and get ready to do our onions. Alright, we have our onions sauteing. They don't take quite as long as the celery, but they do take a few minutes. We just saute them on a low heat. Alright, with our onions sauteed, we will now take them out. Alright, now we're going to saute our bell pepper. They don't take that long. Alright, our bell peppers are ready. I'm going to get them out real quick. They cook a lot faster, and they are done. Now, with all of our vegetables sauteed, we're ready to move to the next step. Next, we're going to debone our chicken. It's just like it sounds. We're going to take this little bird and we're going to debone it. Let the bird cool, or else this becomes a fun experience. We don't want any skin in our dressing, so we're going to take off the skin and we're going to break the meat up into just chunks. Not too big, just medium-sized chunks. Still deboning. This part here gets to be real fun around my house. We have a little chocolate Yorkie. Her name is Prissy. And she feels that this is something that she's entitled to. And I almost have to debone chicken for my dressing in secret. Alright, with our chicken deboned, we're ready to put this thing together. And we're batting 1,000 so far. Prissy hadn't discovered that there's chicken in here. I believe earlier she was stalking it, but I think she gave up and she may be playing right now. So we're going to continue, and I may let her help me cook the next time if she promises not to eat the chicken. We'll have to see how that works out. I think I can trust her. Now we're going to take our cornbreads and we're simply going to crumble them up into the big bowl here because we sprayed. It comes right on out. We're going to take the other cornbread. And what I want to do is I want to combine and mix these two different types of cornbread, and they really complement each other. Alright, at this point we're going to take a little smaller bowl and we're going to start putting all of our vegetables in. That we sauteed earlier. We're also going to include the boiled eggs that we chopped up. And we're going to include our seasons. Again, don't worry about the amounts. They're listed at the end of the video. And these amounts are just a starting point. I realize that there's a lot of different tastes out there. So this is a starting point. You can increase the seasonings to fit your own taste. This seasoning will work 90% of the time unless there's somebody that really likes salt or, you know, what have you. Now, we're going to mix these seasons, the eggs, and the vegetables up real good. Just tossing it with the hand. Alright. Once that's completed, we'll move on to the next phase. Here we're going to take our seasoned vegetables and we're just going to incorporate them into our cornbread, and we're going to toss it around and mix them up. Alright, with that mix now, we're going to start adding our broth. Alright, there's a difference between chicken stock and chicken broth. This is a chicken broth. There's nothing fancy about it. A chicken was boiled in that water. That's the extent of it. No additional seasoning, nothing. That's chicken broth. Now, we're going to start adding the chicken broth. Keep this in mind. You can always add, but you cannot take out. If you get your dressing too wet, you haven't ruined it. It just ruins your day because you've got to cook it a long time. You could cook it 4 or 5 hours. I mean, it's going to be okay. What you would do is you would just cook it until the water evaporates. Don't throw it away. I've made that mistake a dozen times myself. You just simply cook it. But if you can get it right in the beginning, you're looking at about an hour and a half tops. And we're going to stir it around. I've heard people say, well, do it until it's the consistency of cake batter. Okay, you're going to cook it 6 hours. Alright, we're not here to bake a cake. So, we're going to just keep doing it. It's still too dry. We're going to add a little more. If you take a little time at this stage, it'll save you a lot of time later. You get happy and put too much broth in there, like I said, find you a good movie, because you're going to have to watch several of them. Every little bit I'm going to keep mixing it. Now I'm probably not going to cut away while I do this, because I want this part to really be understood. It's one thing to cut a few onions up and then move on to another thing, but this, you really need to see how it's done. Okay, it's damp, but it's still not quite there. Put another little ladle in there. Now we're getting close. I'm going to start maybe putting just like little half ladles or even less, because it's starting to feel real moist. And this is when you need to be real careful. It's not, you can't mess it up. It just reduces your cooking time to reasonable. All right, this feels right. All right, one of the things I like to do is I like to take a handful of it and see if I can make a snowball. It holds together. It doesn't fall apart and just run. If it's runny, it won't stay in a ball. If it's too dry, it won't stay in a ball. So that's a good way to test it. You can see it's a little wet ball. All right, we're going to move on. We've got it. Okay, at this point you want to taste it. We have 4 raw eggs. You don't have to go crazy with it. Just beat it a little bit with a fork and mix it up. And we have our chicken. We're not going to put those in right now. For obvious reasons, these eggs are raw. I don't want to be tasting raw eggs. The other thing is, this chicken, every piece every bite that you go to taste, you're going to get some chicken, and that's going to distort the taste. So we're going to leave the chicken out, and we're going to leave the eggs out. We're going to taste this. Now, a couple of things to note here. However it tastes to you right now, that's how it's going to taste. That's it. Cooking it is not going to alter the taste at all. So if you put a little bit in your mouth and your first impression is maybe a little salt, right now is the time to put a little salt. Mix it up real good and then retaste it. So, I've tasted this and it's perfect. Now we're going to put the eggs in, and we're going to put the chicken in. And we are going to mix this really good. There's only one thing left to do after this, and that's pour it in the cooking container. So this is the final step as far as mixing, so we're going to take our time and do it right. Alright, this looks like, I would say it's thoroughly mixed. And we're simply going to put our dressing in here. Get it ready to go into the oven that's already preheated. Right. We're going to just work it all in there so that it fits nice. It's not too wet, it's not too dry. Now, you do not want to cook this with it all smooth like this. This makes for an ugly dish. And if you're looking for presentation, this is not it. Alright, I've taken a wooden spoon and kind of played with the top of it till I got it the way I wanted it. And now we're going to stick it in the oven at 350. I'm going to cook it for 90 minutes. At the end of 90 minutes, I'm going to take a butter knife and stick down through it, and if it comes out clean, it's ready. And here we have the finished product. Now this one took 70 minutes instead of 90. So about 60 minutes you need to start monitoring it. And it can go up to 90 minutes, but in this case we didn't go that long.